When they first came here, they lived in dugouts on the side of the hill. You know, dug them a little cave, and a lot of people lived there for a long time.
These people had to work hard and do things in order to survive. It was a survival mode. And you know, my grandfather did ranching and ran cattle and all those kinds of things.
My one grandfather who homesteaded, he tried everything. He did bees, they died. He did sheep, they got hoof and mouth disease. Trying to keep canals free and flowing, depending upon the water, depending upon what the water is in the mountains. It's a terribly muddy place, especially in those days.
Places that are nice farmland now, when they got here, it was cedar trees and pinyon pine and sagebrush. And they were clearing that by hand.
These people back then had to work together, one with another, as friends and neighbors, to make things work for each other. If they did it by themselves, they wouldn't make it. But as a team, working together as friends and neighbors.
We had Marion Mortensen came and started a variety store. And those people lived upstairs from their store and were always available. Marion, again, was 7 days a week till 10 o'clock at night.
My family first came to Roosevelt in 1933. My great Aunt Marion, she came to town and started this store. We've been in this location here on Main Street since 1943 when she moved into this building. Originally, this was the Onyx Hotel. Next door, where Cafe Luna is, was the lobby, and we were the diner. Right now, we're the oldest business in town. We have been an institution for years. Many generations have come in and out of here. It's fun because at any given point, you can have 3 to 5 generations in here at the same time, with grandmothers and great-grandmothers and great-greats sometimes.
Back in those days, the doctors did it all. They did your appendectomy, broken legs, broken arms, C-sections, tonsils. They had to do it all.
At the time I moved here, there was 3 doctors, but that was considered by the local people to be great because just a few years before there was 1. But it's changed dramatically there too. Our medical center here is fantastic, and I don't even know how many on staff, but there's got to be 12 to 15 doctors.
In a small town like Roosevelt, we can go to our hospital, we can get MRIs, CAT scans. It's amazing what can be done at our hospital.
The availability and the quality of the service here in our local hospital is the greatest between Salt Lake and Denver as far as I'm concerned.
We had a real good little volunteer fire department. Back in them days, if you were a fireman, you had a separate phone in your house. When they got a fire call, the telephone operators would ring all those fire phones, and they'd meet up here at the fire station. We had a good bunch of guys there too.
Roosevelt's had some pretty terrific fires where sections of the main street have burned and lost businesses, and I think everybody pulled together on that and helped people get back on their feet and cleaning up, and down there to fight the fire. I think the whole town went.
We've still got the 1945 fire engine that the city had, and we have refurbished it and we use it in the parades and what have you. But obviously when I moved here in '71, they had some things newer than that, but they didn't have the facility that we've got now. We have a fairly huge garage that we were able to keep, I think, 5 different full-size fire engines and 3 different fire trucks for going out into the rougher terrain that are 4-wheel drive and what have you, so that they can get into the smaller and tougher areas.
We have an annual celebration called UBIC. It was Uinta Basin Industrial Convention to begin with. And they would bring out all the latest farming equipment and the canning and all kinds of new technology. And then it just evolved into a celebration like a fair.
The governor came out and different people came out and taught them how to plant corn and hay and how to get the best money for what they were putting into their farms.
Here a few years ago, it ran out of money. And it was going to go away after all those years. And the town really pulled together and donated the funds, and everybody took a part and took a job and saved our celebration, and it's well and healthy. And everybody looks forward to it. It's completely free. We also have a famous ghost down at the high school. It's in the auditorium, and we named the ghost Irwin.
Yeah, there was a rumor going around about the ghost. Things would just get misplaced and moved around. You hear something in the catwalk, and nobody was up there.
If you disrespect him when we were doing plays, he would mess with the sound system. Everything would be really fine, and then if you made a joke about him, you'd lose your whole sound system.
Stewart's was founded 52 years ago. That was the beginning when they bought the store from Merrill Wilkins. Dad had a farm over in Jensen. From there they said he couldn't do the physical activity anymore, so we moved to Roosevelt and bought a store with my aunt. Him and my mother brought us kids with them, and they got started, and then he just worked 14 hours a day instead of 16. There's a little store down by where the Roosevelt theaters are now. And in fact, half of the parking lot was where the store was. It was almost walk off the main street into the corner. It had wood floors, and my job was to throw the sawdust down on the floor and then sweep the floor each night after school when I was 8 years old. I don't know how important Stewart's has been to the town, but the town's been very important to us. Here at Stewart's, people are everything, families are everything, and that's the kind of community this is. And so we're happy to be a part of that and to be structured that way.
The Indians back in the old days had a lot to do with supporting the town. Even though it was, compared to now, it was a small amount, they're important. The primary source of income for Roosevelt at the time was the ranchers and the farmers, and they were struggling. The Indian people would get a stipend, and that was a big source of money. I remember my dad taking a lot of fees in sacks of potatoes, quarter of beef, or some such thing, and we didn't mind because that's the way you did business at that time,
We raise hay here and have agriculture here, and that affects our whole county. And they share a lot and help each other out. There can be a lot of things go wrong on a farm.
Most people here are involved in 2 or 3 enterprises. There are people that farm, that run a business, and so there's a lot of intermingling among the people. In the 50s and 60s, when you graduated from high school, you had to leave. If you didn't go to college, you had to leave to get a job. There wasn't anything here. One thing that's been bad.
But the thing that's really made a difference is the oil industry. We are one of the highest producing oil counties in the state of Utah, and it brings a lot of money into the state, but it also has changed the economy dramatically here. When I first moved here, I built a new home, I was 2 blocks off Main Street and I was on a dirt road. And so I've seen expansion of the infrastructure with roads and water and sewer and all of the things that pertain to making a community vibrant have increased dramatically.
The oil really didn't show up here until the early 60s, enough to make an impact. It's way different now with the oil. We're almost too dependent on it.
Roosevelt booms and busts, as does the oil field. You know, there's been, I was trying 1, 2, 3, 4, I think 4 or 5 in my lifetime in these booms and bust cycles. The thing that we hope is it's not too long.
Say you're in the oil field industry and there's a bust come and you can't really leave and you want to stay. I've seen a lot of people end up going back to school to get further education so they can work themselves into a better job for their industry that they're going into. Say it's oil, they want to go into more of a technical field of it.
You have to be careful because it's real easy to get yourself in trouble in the boom where you think money is plentiful and it's always going to be flowing and things change so quickly. The older generation, so to speak, is used to that and they plan and they are able to handle it a little bit better. We have a swimming pool here in Roosevelt that's past its prime use. It's pretty well had it. And it's costing more to do annual repairs than it's worth. We finally got a pool committee together from the community, tried to come out with what was the most feasible thing that we really thought we could accomplish. We had Girl Scouts selling their cookies and turning all of their proceeds into the city to go towards the new aquatic center. We had bake sales. We had one gentleman, we had an auction, and he donated a Thunderbird convertible valued at about $35,000. It was totally restored to go towards whatever it could bring to go towards the aquatic center. We had local businesses really step up. I mean, donations of $200,000, $225,000, $100,000, donations in kind. So that when we went to CIB, ultimately with a little over $7 million project in mind, we had over $3 million of it already raised on our own. And that doesn't happen easily. That's from 6,000 people. And so I'm just really proud of the community. I'm really proud of the way they step up to try to make things as nice for all of us as they can. And we have nice parks and we have a nice golf course and we have other nice amenities too. But that's just a good example of how the community came together to do something that needed to be done.
One thing that I think that really bound us together back in the olden days, like the 40s and the 50s, you played each other in sporting games like basketball and football because we didn't have the means to go to travel like they do nowadays.
Sports are big and sports are important. And all you have to do is say, we want to build a high school here and we're going to put a nice big new gym, and find out how quickly the people in the next community respond and say, we need a new gym too.
They're important because it gives not just the children something to do, it gives the adults something to do and look forward. Everybody looks forward to every sport. All the games are well attended. The whole town shows up to go out to the football games, to the basketball games.
When anybody has trouble, I would say this is the very strongest thing about Roosevelt. It doesn't matter who they are, if it's an illness, if it's a fire, if it's trouble in any way, Roosevelt is so 100% there in times of trouble.
Every year we do a Trees for Charity. It's called the Enchanted Forest at the Crossroads Center. This year we raised over $250,000. The year before that we raised over $400,000. It's just amazing how people can open their hearts, give to the local charities, make sure everything survives, and we are a tight-knit community.
I think Roosevelt's one of the greatest places in the world to live, and I'm glad that we live here. I'm glad that 3 of my children still live here because they've been able to find work and employment and the things that they need to raise their families, and now they're doing that.
I felt like that I had a little more knowledge of who their friends were, who their associates were, who their teachers were, that type of thing as they came along and through those growing years, and that was really important to me.
It's just good people, I think, that do things like that. They care about each other.
There's a lot of people that come in when it's booming, and there's a lot of people that go out when it leaves. But luckily, once you come to Roosevelt, it's kind of hard to leave. You always want to come back.